27th at 2:03 p.m. We have 28 items, so we'll try and move through them at a decent pace as we go. The first item is to approve the minutes of March 5th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Item 2, hearing process report.
So moved.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that passes. Item 3, approve or deny class change, secondary residential to primary. Any questions on those?
I had no questions.
None.
Okay, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. And item 4 is approve or deny petition, Board of Equalization, Austin Amber Henry.
Yeah, this is they're asking for consideration to accept the appeal after the filing deadline on the basis of failure to notify. I didn't find any error on the county's part. The notice has been going to the same address for the last, since 2022, and no notices have been returned as undeliverable, and no address change has been made. So, I'm not really seeing there's a failure. There's no error here. There's no the owners have owned the property for a while, so I'm not sure we have any basis to grant that. So we're recommending denial.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'll move to deny item number 4.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a request from the individual on item 25, which is item 28, which is on the last item of the agenda. They have another appointment with their kids at about 3:30, and they were hoping we could move them up to the beginning of the agenda versus waiting to the end. This is for the Greenbelt appeal, and they should be online.
Commissioners, Mandy North, Auditor's Office. Also Tabitha's Way that we have number 5 has a ribbon cutting. So where they may not have much discussion, could we possibly do them and then Greenbelt?
We went to their ribbon cutting.
You did? Well,
Yes.
they're still there. So
both of
they're
us.
still there.
So are you wanting to move them towards the end?
No,
Or-
I had them at the top so she could zoom in. Is Wendy Osborne on Zoom? So she could zoom in and then zoom out. Is she on?
Yeah, she's there. But and both Mr. Peterson, Mr. Patterson, and Wendy have raised their hands. So I guess it's commissioner's choice as to which
Let's
one
go
goes
item
first.
5. Let's go item 5 with Tabitha's Way.
Okay.
And then we'll bounce to item 28.
All right.
And then we'll get back in order. Okay? So this is item 5, approve or deny new property tax exemption for Tabitha's Way and personal property account. We need to hear from the applicant, right? Okay.
And Wendy's.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Wendy.
Okay, so sorry. I was trying to figure out the technology. I'm like, oh no, how do I make this work? so sorry.
Okay, tell us what exactly we're adding here.
Yeah. So basically, we did have an exemption on our Spanish Fork location, our old building. We've asked to remove that and add the new Spanish Fork location, as well as we were leasing a location in American Fork, but have moved. We're not leasing that space anymore and have moved and built a new building in Pleasant Grove. So we're adding Pleasant Grove and adding the new Spanish Fork location and removing the old Spanish Fork location.
Okay. Any comments?
From the application.
Thank you, Wendy. Any comments from staff?
No question. It's
Okay.
consistent with their other properties.
Excellent.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve item number 5.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that passes. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you all. God bless. Have a good day.
You too. Item 28 is approve or deny application for review, BOE Farmland Assessment Act, status for Autumn Valley land. Who from,
I believe we've got Isaac Patterson online for representing Autumn Valley Land.
Yes, sir.
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sure.
Isaac, what can you tell us about this that we don't already have in our packet?
Okay, so really, I think the packet's pretty complete. We purchased the property way back in 2017, 2018, and continue to farm the property with the Mitchell and the Riley family. We provided proof of production back in 2020, and then we went through the drought, right? So in 2020, 2021, everything was going strong. 2022, there wasn't enough water to the land. My understanding was that it was all due to the drought. I found out later, recently at the beginning of this year, one of the neighbors contacted the irrigation company, and they took out one of the outlets to our property, and that's what contributed to the water continuing not to get to our property. We have since placed cattle on the property. We got them there in December of last year. We continue to have the cattle on site actively. Started with 5. We have 2 additional calves, and we would like to be able to continue to farm the property. I know that it's not going to be farmed forever, but even if I can get it for another 2-3 years, that's kind of the goal right now.
Okay, we may have some further questions for you, Isaac. Is someone from the assessor's office? I didn't see. Oh, there she is. Diane, you were hiding. You were hiding. You can't call the second row hiding. You were at the back row, I could say that,
Exactly.
hiding. But, okay.
Diane Garcia, Utah County Assessor's Office. These are actually 3 parcels. 2 of them are little slivers. They add up to 6.98 acres. And this withdrawal was based on the owner's statements on December 20th. The owner talked to me and explained to me that he was not able to show 2 years of agriculture production because nothing had been occurring on the property. There had been fruit trees and they were all dead or unkept, and that he didn't know what to do. I told him that it would no longer qualify. And so he did tell me the past production was Chris Riley had used it years past. I did speak with Chris Riley, and he explained to me that there was still water. It's just that it was very burdensome for him to get access to that. The irrigation company made it difficult for him to drive all the way from Genola up there to American Fork City to water in the middle of the night, and he wasn't getting enough of an income or produce from that. It was a fruit produce you pick. So they had the fruit trees, and then they also planted other produce that people would come and pick. And he said it just was no longer worth it. And he had quit in 2021. So based on the previous lessee statements and upon the owner statements, it was taken off. So that was December 20th of 2024. And then the owner notified me that they had put cattle on it sometime the last week of December to try to qualify it for the 2024 year. But there was no previous 2 years production. The fallow statement made by the owner, the rule for fallow, the new rule for fallow is if you intend to fallow it because you're doing a water conservation or because of drought or lack of water, that you must submit to the county assessor's office ahead of time that you're going to do that management and that you're going to have it fallow due to that water conservation. And there was no communications between the assessor's office and the owner concerning any kind of management or fallow practices.
You say new rule. When did that start?
Well, it always had fallow, but they added just this last year
In our
that
session?
that you have to, well, no, not this last session, last year,
Sure. When did it place this year?
2024.
Gotcha.
That because of water conservation issues and concerns, that if a farmer wants to be a part of a water conservation and conserve on water for a year or two, that they can do that and not produce a crop, but that they must notify the assessor's office that that is their intention and the reasons why they're doing it, and that in that plan, they tell them when they're going to go back into production, so that it's all understood and upfront and part of a management thing.
Gotcha. And if, kind of to cut to the chase, if we were to side with and let them accept this, you're most likely going to appeal it. Is that accurate?
Correct.
I figured such. Just to want to save as much time as possible and throw that out. I didn't do that in years past, and I think it can save a lot of time. So, do you guys have any questions for Diane or Isaac at this point?
Mr. Patterson, did you add the cows in the end of last year? Is that accurate statement?
Yes, sir.
And do the trees bear any fruit now, or?
So there are a few trees that do, not on a production level that would qualify, under the orchard status. So that's why we requested to change it to the graze 3 status. But we do have trees on the west, the northwest section that the property owners or adjacent property owners will just add water as they see fit, and they're able to produce or get the production off of those trees.
Thank you. And then Diane, if they were to be denied today, they could then re-begin 2 years of productivity and come back for a green
Yes,
belt.
they could.
Okay.
But they could also, if they're denied today, they could also appeal to the state.
Okay. Thank you.
I prefer not to be denied.
We kind of figured that's what, yeah, yes, understood, Isaac. Having seen this process, though, I can promise you that it is really lengthy for you and for our staff. We know that, to meet the requirements, it sounds like you're getting back into that, but for the years that you were not in production, it seems to make sense that it would not qualify. But, so with that,
And again, with the fallowing, right? I mean, 2022, extreme drought, not able to get the water there. And in fact, Mr. Riley did do pruning and trimming on 2022. So 2021 was the last full year he was able to manage the property, but we did all of the trimming, et cetera, in 2022, and then there just wasn't the water, right? And yeah, there was some issues with the irrigation company. They allowed us, access to the water 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. Sometime around 2022 or 2023, that access was shut off. I didn't understand that that's what had happened. I had assumed, and again, we allowed the Riley family to have control of the farming operation. And so, I mean, looking back, I wish I would have understood what was going on. I could have jumped into the process earlier in 2024 to get converted over to cattle earlier. I'm hoping you'll give us a little leniency and understand that, again, at least one of those years, it was absolutely due to the drought and the water constrictions.
okay. Commissioner Gardner, do you have anything to add or any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. Either of you prepared to entertain a motion, make a motion?
I mean, I'm hesitant because, like, if you are meaning to farm and you're wanting to farm and you thought you were farming and you've made changes to continue to farm, then I want to keep as much land and farm as we can. But with not meeting the production requirements, obviously that's difficult. And you said it was one of those years that you didn't, but how many years did it not meet production again?
2.5. So, again, 2024, we converted it to grazing. And under the grazing guidelines, it would beat it. So it would have been it's just the 2023 year that,
If we accept it,
2022 and 2023 that did not meet production. Right? 2022 was obviously very much affected by the drought.
I just look at
Yeah.
the first
Diane, do you agree that it meets
Gonna go.
grazing production levels now, that he could reapply with grazing production levels as is?
I don't believe it met it for 2024, and the owner is asking for the land classification to be changed from irrigated 4 to grazing 3. That is not how it converts. It would then be converted to maybe dry farming 3 or 4. It wouldn't just go to grazing 3.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think there's still too many questions here, quite for me. I mean, I love that you want to farm, and I'm glad that you were farming, but with the change, I think that this would get overturned at the state, and I think it would just take a ton of time and a ton of money just to get the same result. So I think I'll make a motion to deny.
One of the things that Bert, I'm sorry, I was spacing on his last name, but the county assessor, when I met with him, he said, "Hey, listen, we don't want to prevent you from keeping your property and farming it," to where he seemed like it was along the lines of trying to help and see a path forward. It seems like that's not necessarily the case right now.
I think what Commissioner Gardner said, and it's like I say, none of us up here are against what you're working to do. In fact, we still actively farm at the Gordons, and we definitely want you to do what you're doing. We accept this today. You will be going through a lot more of meetings, and if it's my experience that when you get to the state, it'll get overturned, and then you'll be starting back at square one anyway. Just based upon historical, what I've seen friends and family go through here. And so as far as our hands being tied, really, for telling you, go get your ducks in a row to get back into the status, and with that,
Yeah, I don't know if we can afford to do that, right? I mean, by the time you get hit with a $100,000 rollback fee, it's time to develop land. I mean, I can't keep farming after I have to pay that bill.
So what you can do, if you are intending on farming and you are intending on getting back in, then we can do a deferral on that. We can do a deferral, and then if you get back into farm status this year, then you can apply for a deferral that would, every year that you farm, would take away 20% of that bill. And if you farm for 5 years and it starts over, unless you then stop farming, then you do get the rollback back. So if you are putting it back into farming, there are ways that we can defer and eventually abate that $100,000 if you farm for 5 years.
Okay, I would like to do that.
Right. And so in that case, because we don't want to bankrupt you, we want you to farm. But the problem is if you're not, like, we've done this before where people said they were going to and then they didn't, and then we've got the money, right? So we abated it. So what we do is we put it in a deferral, and then you need to get back into farming status as soon as possible. And then once you're in farming status, you stay there for a certain amount of time. There's some boxes that check, and we can defer that over time just to ensure that you're continuing to farm. If you're interested in that, we can work with that. Otherwise, yeah, then we get to the point that if it's going to get developed, then we do charge the rollback.
Right. And again, when we develop it, I know that we're paying the rollback taxes, right? So it's not that I don't intend to pay the rollback taxes 100% due. I'm just hoping that we're able to defer it and keep the property in agriculture and, open I mean, I put in my application, I have 3 young kids. It's a good way to teach them work ethics. And so that's kind of my goal.
Yeah. Okay. So get with the staff to talk about a deferral with an eventual abatement, assuming you get back into farm status. And then they'll give you a time, like you have a certain number of times that you have to get back in. So we would still deny this today, but then work with them on seeing if you can qualify for a deferral by getting back into farm status.
Okay.
And that's
Isaac,
a separate process.
appreciate hearing you having worked with Diane Garcia and Bert Garfield. The assessor's office is always there to help, so lean on them.
Okay.
I will second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to deny. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone.
Is there a way to raise the volume for the Zoom people? So it's pretty light. Thank you.
Okay, move on to item 6, approve or deny 2025 annual statement for continued property tax exemptions.
Mr. Chairman, before
yes.
we dive into this one, just a quick primer, just for everyone's benefit. These first 3, of course, are the continuing statements, so these are been submitted in a block. Although on this first one, we do need to pull out of the list all of the application for rural housing. Is it rural housing? Yeah, also known as self-help homes. We need to have that continue to next month. There was some additional issues that we need the organization to talk about, and since we didn't discover these until basically yesterday, we're past our 10-day window to have them discuss it now. We feel they should be prepared and all of us be prepared. So we'd like to pull that application out of the out of number 6, so whenever we get to the point of doing the motion, it just needs to be taking those applications out of consideration.
Okay. Anything else you want to tee up for us on the list?
I think I would look to Gina Case and Mandy North from my office. They're the ones who've been working with these applications, so they can provide any other additional information.
So the other ones that are on the list for charitable organizations, they're fine. Just rural housing has to be continued till May, and I don't think we have anything new to add to that.
April.
Oh, sorry, in May, April. Skipping.
All
one.
right. So, okay, so in the motion, if we're removing rural housing, that one too. Should we say the next BOE meeting or just, okay.
And 7 or 8 has nothing to pull from.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve item 6 with rural housing removed until the next BOE.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Item 7, approve or deny statement.
I'll move to approve item number 7.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Item 8,
A motion to approve item 8.
I'll second.
motion and a second to approve item 8. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, and number 9, Brigham Young University.
So we do have some questions for BYU on 2 parcels. In previous meetings, we've had both of these approved for exemption, but the first one we have questions on is serial number 2300109191. Do you have an
I do.
explanation?
Yeah. My name is Eric Busaith, Assistant University Tax Manager at Brigham Young University. On 2300109191, that is a storage facility that's out in the Ironton Hill area, right between Provo and Springville, just off 89. It's adjacent to the existing ISB storage facility that BYU has owned. It is going to be consolidated by May 31st. It is going to be used to store machinery and equipment and vehicles.
And just out of curiosity, does that mean that you're changing, like you're consolidating the parcels?
Into one parcel. That's
Okay.
right. By May 31st, that'll happen.
Okay, great. And then the second one is serial number 19075049. It's a building that is adjacent to buildings that are being used currently.
That's right. Yep, it's adjacent to the existing Provo or the old Provo High School. The whole, we call it the little corner parcel there, that will also be consolidated. The 3 parcels that were recently purchased by BYU, that'll be consolidated with the BYU West campus by May 31st. The buildings will be demolished, working on permits there. Those should be demolished, we're planning on by September. And then they'll be used for educational purposes.
Okay.
So for the building that is in conjunction with this serial number, so that's currently exempt and it's vacant.
Which one are we talking about?
It's the one that's the dental building?
That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, that's
Okay.
the
So
one.
it's currently vacant.
That's right. It's going to be, that parcel is going to be consolidated with the West campus. And then it is going to be demolished. That building will be demolished. They're working on getting that figured out with the asbestos and other things going on there. But they're working on demolishing that structure. It will be demolished, they're saying, by September.
And do you guys have a current permit for that?
Not currently.
Okay.
And are you willing to say if the Cougars win today that we'll approve this, and if not,
Yes.
then you're denied?
Yes.
that be
I'm
acceptable?
guaranteeing a win if we get approval.
That's a quid pro quo, so that's not.
I'm guaranteeing a win if
That's
we
a
get approval.
joke,
Okay.
just so we're clear.
Commissioners, this building is next door to the one we denied, was in our
In-
last meeting.
Uh-huh.
Same issue where it's just vacant, no permit to do anything with it.
And that particular one is, what's the status of working on that permit?
That's the same situation with this parcel. We're going to consolidate it.
Consolidate it.
Yeah, by May 31st. So we may apply for a new exemption once we have that figured out. And then, but they are saying in 2 months, by May 31st, those will be consolidated. And then the existing structure should be down by September in preparation.
And it already adjoins a qualified exempted
That's
property.
right.
Okay.
It'll be with the old Provo High School
Oh, it does not.
and Provo
So
Seminary.
they're contiguous,
Okay.
but they're not.
They're not using it. So they are using the Provo High campus. This sits on the edge of it and it's just vacant, no trespassing signs, no current use.
Okay.
Okay, questions? Comments?
So I think, no comments.
Okay, and I guess I should ask, a recommendation as far as staff from here?
I think the recommendation for that particular building would be to deny exemption because it is in current use.
But 00191?
0049, so it's the 190750049.
Okay,
But everything else should be fine to continue with exemption.
okay.
And in past decisions of yours, you would be fine with the assumption. And I'm fine as well. Last year I was not because it was an entire tax year without movement. This year, I believe your assumption of meeting the deadline qualifies for me this time where it did not last time, if that makes sense.
Sure. Part of my theory also is, knowing that it's going to get done, just that extra step to have to come back again, knowing that.
Yeah.
But I think I explained that in the last. Any questions or comments, Commissioner Gardner?
No, I don't have any. No, and I like the recommendation. So I would be good in making a motion with the recommendation from staff.
Which is, from what I heard, accepting all except for the final discussed parcel ending in 49.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Will you lobby me on that, Commissioner Gardner?
Yeah, well, just the fact that I know that they're planning on doing it, but it's not done yet. And when it is done, it's still going to have to be built before it can be used for educational purposes.
Bert,
If I can add some policy perspective on this. The guidelines from the state tax commission and the statute give direction to boards to that vacant property that is being held for future use does not yet qualify. So we've got a couple of challenges here. We've already denied the. I'm looking at the map here, and these two parcels that are in question. Well, okay, one is not in question, but the one that's on the current application is in question. They do adjoin next to Provo High School, and if the parcels had already been combined prior to January 1st, and even if the buildings were still there, but they've been combined with the larger parcel, there wouldn't necessarily be a question because a majority of obviously Provo High School is being used by BYU and does meet that qualification. That's right. But the challenge we have right now is they are still separate parcels. So they on their own have to meet the qualification and have been irrevocably committed to be used by the institution where they're sitting vacant with the intention of being demolished. We then have to look for an additional standard, which is construction commences or building permit being issued. Now, I'm sorry, Eric, I don't remember your last name.
Busaith.
Yeah, when Mr. Busaith was here earlier, the board made it very clear that, okay, what we were looking for was a demo permit. If that could get done, then it'd be easy enough to grant that. Unfortunately, we have to deal with these at the time the application's made, and where this is a continuing statement, not a new application where a property was recently acquired. We have a shorter time window. So,
I think
the auditor's office is making the recommendation because we don't yet have a demo permit issued, which I think we would have no issue with saying that it would qualify because at that point it's been irrevocably committed. But where they're still waiting, that we reviewed some.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's kind of our perspective.
Well, and then on top of that, like you said, they're not combined parcels yet. And so when this happens, they will qualify, yes. But I don't feel they qualify yet because of those things aren't quite done.
So if we would have had this consolidated before January 1st, that would have made all the difference. Is that?
Correct.
It would definitely
Right,
be a
because as
different
is,
conversation.
the property itself, in my mind, the property itself does not yet qualify because it has to stand on its own because it's not consolidated yet. Had it been consolidated, then the majority would have, and I would have been fine with it.
So running with the theme of being the most efficient, would it be best to even table this and give them a couple of weeks to get that demolition permit and then it's all in one? Or
Well, currently, the board has a couple options. Obviously, deny is one option, approve is one option, and continuing is the other option. Our challenge, of course, is we're time limited because statute requires a decision be made on an application on or before May 1st. So, which is keeping in track with the assessment deadline and certified tax rates and everything else like that. So, if BYU is just from the auditor's office perspective, if, it was continued for a month and BYU is able to come back and say, hey, we got the demo permits, I don't think the auditor's office would have any issue with being on board with an approval. Again, it's a matter of, we're going back to what the guidelines and statutes are saying. It's saying there has to be a commitment that's irrevocable. At this point right now, BYU could sell them off and back. I doubt that BYU would do that. But what I'm saying is that the buildings, once a permit has been issued and construction commences and they start taking down, demolishing stuff, that's when it's been committed, and that's what the current guidelines and statute require.
okay, so
And what I'm hearing is that by September, they'll have the buildings demolished.
but how hard would that permit be to get? Would you
I'm
prefer?
sorry?
How hard would that demolition permit be to get?
I would have to find out.
So do you prefer to get all your other stuff done today, or you want to table in hopes of getting a permit by April?
We have to make action by May 1st, and so in a future BOE meeting, we could.
So what would be
Yeah.
your preference?
We have a motion also to approve everything except for that one parcel, or we could table and they could all come together. You got to come back either way. It sounds like.
Yeah, let's just table it and then do that before May 1st if we can do that.
Staff okay with that? Yeah. Okay.
What does
Understand that.
Commissioner Gardner want
You
to
okay with that, Commissioner Gardner?
pull her motion, or?
Yep, I'm fine with that. I will modify my motion to table.
To the next BOE meeting.
Yep.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Yep, appreciate it.
I'm not sure Eric wants to ever come back here.
He's becoming a frequent flyer, aren't you? Thank you.
Eric's becoming an expert on the Board of Equalization for Utah County.
I'll never forget that parcel, so.
Yep. All right. Approve or deny our Hewish Performing Arts and Cultural Education Center. I see our friends from.
Okay, so we do have questions on this, and I don't think I announced myself. I'm Gina Case with the Auditor's Office.
Thanks,
so
Gina.
Just so you know. So we do have questions on this one. I'm gonna try to share my screen. Let's see. Not as seamless as I wanted it to be, so let's see. So they are continuing, they've submitted a continuing application. Oh, heavens. Huh? Well, hold on. So they are a performing arts and cultural education center. They've applied under charitable purpose. Okay, hold on one second. I don't mind.
Okay. I gotta get the right button.
This might.
There it is. Okay, hang on. Why is it not showing? There you go.
Okay. So just as a refresher, so just because you're a 501c3 does not really qualify you for property tax exemption. You do have to, the burden of proof is on the applicant to meet the requirements for the property tax exemption. In 2011 was their first application, and that decision was based on being under construction and actively dedicating the space to their nonprofit energies. But since 2011, we don't see that they have been able to bring that theater up to use. There's a small portion that they were able to complete, which they call phase one. In standards of practice, vacant land that's held for future development is not exemptable until it's irrevocably committed. So that's where this comes from. So this isn't vacant land, but it's a vacant building. And if it's under construction actively, it can be considered irrevocably committed to the charitable purposes. Let's see. So you have to have bona fide preparation, and you need to have active construction going on. And right now, it doesn't seem like they have that as far as their application shows. This is the picture that they submitted for the finished portion of the building. And this is what the breakdown is for the finished portion versus what's not finished. So we've got 9,500 square feet. And the sideshow venue that was in that previous slide, it takes up 1,255 square feet. So that's basically under 14% of the property use. So we find that that's de minimis use. It's inconsequential to the full building. And so right now, we don't see that it actually qualifies. And they also charge for admission into their venue. And the other problem is that they say in their in their application that they're not currently able to pay for their contractors to come in. They're not bringing in enough donations and revenue from their sideshow venue to give charitable contribution, charitable gift. So it's a hard one, but it's not looking like they fit the qualifications for charitable purpose.
And since 2011, has the commission denied any years?
No.
No. So since then, they have received this. Is that
There
right?
were it was a year or two where they failed to file, so they missed a year or two,
Okay.
just for that. But they've consistently reported that they are under construction.
Okay.
They're just not.
All right. Tell us your name,
Richard Lindsay,
Richard.
Board of Directors. I don't know what you want to hear, but we are actively under construction. We, as she said, we finished the, what we call the sideshow, and it's actually more square footage than that. It's almost double that because of the restrooms and the other things that are going on associated with that part of the building. And we could not occupy the building without those restrooms. They had to be ADA compliant, and they are now. The reason we are starting to move forward on phase 2, which is the main auditorium, and but we can't occupy that yet because we don't have fire suppression in that part of the building. We are working on grants to get architectural renderings for that part of the building, and until we get fire suppression in there, we really can't do much. We can't use it for public use, but we can still work on construction things in there. So, we have received a couple of grants for architectural renderings, and those are in process right now. We have received a couple of them back, and that's where it stands.
Knowing a little bit of the history of this, my fear is that if we are denying this, I mean, I know there's no money even to pay the property tax. They're using personal funds just to keep lights on. So I don't know whether that helps or hurts a decision. I mean, you continue now hearing Richard say that we're closer to 30% with the bathrooms and things like that as far as completed. Seems to be working towards construction, but I'm leaning a little more towards leniency, but like to hear arguing thoughts.
I mean, usually I do lean towards leniency, but we're talking 13 years of leniency, so how much is too much? And, you know, the tax burden then falls on the rest of the community, so I don't take that into consideration either, because, you know, we're not here to assist people in paying their tax bill because everybody else will have to pick up the burden. But charging the bands, charging admission, not making it work. While I appreciate, you know, their efforts and the cultural contributions, I'm struggling to find a viable support.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification for you. There was a year where Hewish did not qualify because of a failure to file. That was just a problem on their side. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember how we resolved that, but I do remember. No, I do remember they did end up paying taxes that year, but that wasn't a lack of qualification. That was a failure to file issue. So, and just to kind of also add an additional clarification, the one thing that's good to remember about this process is that while the history of approving an application is important, the law is set up that an organization seeking an exemption this way does have to show the board they qualify every year. So it wouldn't necessarily be a precedent to grant nor deny an application in an individual year. I think the law contemplates that an applicant could 1 year not qualify and therefore have to pay taxes and then come back and qualify again. So, you know, it's obviously we need to tackle every year as they come, so.
If I could add one thing to that, on a charitable application, there is a requirement of charitable giving, and they've shown no charitable giving since inception of the exemption. They don't have enough funds or anything to even give. They're not giving free space. Maybe a couple people use the finished space for free, but otherwise they're charging for that space and not really giving a benefit that would offset their tax.
Okay. Is that, Richard, are there other things that maybe we've left out that could qualify for charitable giving?
We don't really know what to ask
Sure.
ask
Okay.
for.
Okay.
This, even though we've been doing this for a lot of years, we really don't understand the tax system, and so we're just trying to struggle to keep the thing going.
Yeah. You just have a board of directors.
Yeah.
Okay. And I see Councilman Hewlett. Ryan?
I just got one thing on charitable giving. The Chamber of Commerce uses that building quite often to have, and they use it for free.
Okay.
And it's not just the Chamber of Commerce. There's a couple of other organizations in town that have used it for free.
I believe he reported that Chamber of Commerce paid a fee for that use.
Oh, they do not, Brian? Is that inaccurate? That they pay for that? Commissioner Gardner, what have you?
The one thing I know, I understand the construction, and I understand those, but what are there any benefits to the citizens that have not been presented to us? Because I think that's really what it comes down to as a nonprofit. Like, obviously, you're not making money off of this; the nonprofit is there, but I think in order to really justify the tax exemption, it would be like the public benefit. Can you share with us maybe what programs or things, what benefits this is, or is this all just something you're hoping to do when the building gets finished?
Well, what we're hoping to do when the building gets finished is to have an active theater program there and charge admission and all that. But in the meantime, because we don't have the larger venue, it's be a 600-seat venue. Right now, we only have less than 100. And so trying to get people to come in there, and the few that do pay, it's $5 here and $10 there, kind of a thing. But we have allowed other companies. I've listed it on the, when I filled out the form, I listed a lot of those things that we've done. Some of them have paid, most of them have not. And so, and a lot of it has been charitable donations of space usage. So.
Question for staff. Do we have other theaters like, I'm thinking of the Brown Theater on Springville Main Street. I'm thinking of Angelus Theater in Spanish Fork Main Street. I
We
grew
do
up going
not.
to this theater.
We do not. This is unique, except we do have Hale on our agenda. We haven't gotten to that yet as a new applicant.
And Sarah Shell in Provo, they are.
We do have Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah's the only one. None of the other small privately owned theaters have sought a tax exemption. But as Mandy said, we've got Hale Center on our agenda today.
I asked that to kind of address like your concern of the community, the tax shift. Like I'm very cognizant, right? If we give them an advantage, there's a family that, picks that up, correct? And I think that the argument I make with that is knowing this is a staple in the community of Payson as a, they don't want to see that tore down and a Maverick put on that corner, I think is what my understanding has always been, being involved with their chamber and things like that. It's a downtown staple. Seeing the amount of money that Payson was willing to put into their Main Street and this area, that's kind of why I was seeing it as such.
I mean, do we have any, it sounds as though funding is a severe issue. Like, is there anything changed recently that you are optimistic of any change? The track record has not been healthy. So is there anything recent that would justify saying this time next year it will look way different than it does now?
Well, other than the grants that we've already received for the architectural renderings, as soon as we get those, then we can start applying for, well, we do have people in the wings who are willing to donate money toward construction. It's just that we need to get some architectural renderings done right now.
And that's been ordered, that's,
Yes, we have already received a couple of them.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
So we received a tourism grant from the state of Utah to help us move this project along because of, like you say, the funding's been the challenge. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars to help this in the downtown part of Payson we're trying to revitalize. So we received this $50,000 grant. And so we put on our RFP. The RFP has been responded to. Now we're just going through to make the selections too, so we can do the renderings. We can get pitch decks, so we can go out and raise money and things like that. So we'll have all our renderings. We'll have everything that we need in place to go out and really go out and find the money to finish this project.
You see that happening between now and next year?
Yeah, the pitch deck will be done. We'll be out actively getting the money. So I think that we'll, by this time next year, I hope that we'll have a substantial amount of money so we can start moving this project forward some more.
You willing to try it for a year?
yes, pending
Adam
Adam's
Beck's.
comments.
Yeah, Adam Beck, Utah County Attorney's Office. Yeah, I just want to emphasize that it is the statute requires that a nonprofit exclusively uses the property for a charitable purpose. And so right now, the concern that we have from the auditor's side is that it's not exclusively being used for a charitable purpose at this time. It sounds like there are some big plans, but future plans, it would not be the grounds to give them an exemption at this time. And so that is why our recommendation is a denial at this point.
And if we approve, is there an avenue for you to appeal it as well to the state? And is that likely?
Correct. We haven't had any discussions on that topic, but there is an avenue for both parties, depending on the outcome of this decision, to appeal it to this state tax commission.
Commissioner Gardner, any changes on your view?
Yeah, this one is a tough one. I mean, I don't think they're profiting off of it, right? But I do see that it is difficult. They have had a hard time getting it started and getting it going. So I could go either way. I don't know whatever your preferences are. This is a tough one for me.
Let me just say that the reason we charge anything is so we can pay the utility bills, which we're only paying half of it. The rest of it's coming out of our own pockets. So, I mean, we could stop charging anybody anything.
I actually thought of that. With the charging of it. Like, is charging for actual expenses counts for as, charging? I mean, Adam, I guess that would be a question for you for the attorney's office. If it's just covering base costs, I mean, when we use LDS chapels for voting locations, we pay to have them cleaned.
In our view, it's more of a charitable use as de minimis on the overall square footage of the property. We have a list of everyone who used the property and what they paid, and the free use of the property or any kind of benefit to the community is very de minimis.
And that was actually where I was going with my previous question was what's the community benefit, right? That was actually that's why I had asked that previous question is what are the benefits to the community? More so than is the property fully functioning? My question is, as an organization and as the property, what are the benefits to the community? That's the gap that I'm not seeing being fulfilled.
What would be the definition of benefiting the community? I mean, we provide a place for people to come in and express their talents and that kind of thing.
How many performances a month would you say you host there?
Minimum 4, but we've had as many as maybe 10 more.
So at least once a week, if not 2.
Yeah.
2 times a week. Okay. Probably ready for a motion. Otherwise, we'll be here all night since we're on this
We
side.
have
of
a
10.
5:09 p.m. deadline today.
I think I've stated I'm inclined to see another year, but that's, you know.
Yeah, I think me as well. I'll make a motion to approve for another year.
Are you comfortable with? Second. So we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. That passes 2-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, number 11, approve or deny 2025 annual statement for continued property tax exemption for Jones Hughes Heritage Foundation.
A representative from Jones Hughes, I think, is supposed to be here.
We have 3 generations here, representing 7 generations, 8 with a new great-great-great-great-grandbaby. I would love to present some additional photographs of this 8 generations project and some new tax information and any further information that might be pertinent to this. My name is Jennifer Hughes, too. And I am truly an indentured servant to my parents, but I'm on the board. And our nephew, James, and mom and dad, who are the heart and soul of the Jones Hughes Heritage Project. And then also a board member who truly is committed to the restoration and preservation of the project. I am really, truly committed to this because it is a project for the community in Spanish Fork on Main Street that is the heart of Main Street and our heritage for 7 generations. It includes properties on First South and Main Street, so it's very visible from the city park and from Main Street. Our hope is this vision, like BYU's, that it's just continual growth. It's in this growth process. Everything we do is not for profit. Mom and dad have poured their finances and their heart and soul into this property that's open to school groups. We're partnering with Diamond Fork Middle School, where the kids are creating QR codes with their English teachers and their computer science classes so that they can take their generation's smartphones and put a QR code on a wagon or a hay rake and scan a QR code. And it's non-obtrusive, maybe like some of the other museums where you have plaques and a docent, but the kids can go explore on their own because it's kind of a private little residential hidden gem. It's not a museum in the natural sense of like, go and it's formal, but the kids get to just be free and go explore. And they'll be able to scan those QR codes and be able to go back to what they create with their voices. And we're excited about that. The only way that we fund this is through mom and dad. That's how we sustain it. We haven't gone out to get grants. Mom and dad are the most charitable people you'll ever meet. They're always opening this up to Daughters of the American Revolution, the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers. We do service projects where kids from the local wards and stakes come and fill in 1 or 2 hours the dumpster. We do high school prom photos, the FFA, buses come from American Fork with 4th graders, youth groups, and that's what's in here are just pictures after pictures of the years that we've done. Chris Woodward comes and he's trying to save great-great-grandpa's granary and just preserve this heritage where all of you are personally invited to come and see the past so that we can gauge where we are right now so that we can predict where we want to go. The language here in the Supreme Court says that if we don't quite have the One Little Doll Museum ready and open, maybe that property is not exempt, but 143 and the cabins are open constantly. Rain, sleet, or snow, if someone wants to call and come, it is open. a mom's group came because it was too much on the 24th, so I was there so they could have the property all to themselves. They call by appointment. It's open to the public on certain days, but really, truly, this property is open by appointment. We have 300 people coming with the Red family because they want it just for their family reunion. So yes, Dad tells me, and I will do anything to share this heritage with whoever wants to come, that if part of it doesn't qualify because we're trying to get the water back on, and that's what Chris Woodward helps, and now we have him home from his mission. Thank goodness he's my workhorse. He can now come in because we don't hire people to come in and help us. We just do it as a family. And this tax exemption for this nonprofit helps us immensely. And if we have to reapply because there are questions, we'll try and answer them. We'll get the taxes, we'll figure it out, and we'll reapply. We'll do whatever the Patterson, I don't know. We're all trying to figure it out as it transitions from Mom and Dad's generation to mine.
Okay, we might have some more questions for you, Jennifer.
I'm sure you do. And we'll figure it out.
All right, who from staff would like to?
Okay, so let's see, I'm trying to share again. Okay, so as we saw, it's Jones Hughes Heritage Foundation. They are here in Utah County. This is a map of all of the properties that they've applied for exemption in. You'll see that there are 4 homes, a display barn, and then there's some cabins. The cabins are on a lot of its own, and then maybe a few other things. Let's see. Just a reminder, just because you're a 501c3 doesn't qualify you for a property tax exemption, and then the burden of proof is on the applicant. Let's see. So, so again, we're back to like that vacant land thing where it applies also to vacant buildings and properties and homes. If they're not being irrevocably committed, if they're not being used for the charitable purpose, they're not qualified for exemption. And as far as their application shows, the homes are not being used. It's the outside portions that people are visiting. There are also things that they need to comply with for charitable purpose, things like lessening the burden of government, providing a significant service without immediate expectation of material needs. Any commercial activities are subordinate or incidental to charitable activities. And then in the common good, if they don't satisfy that that charitable good, then again they're not going to qualify for property tax exemption. Let's see. So land simply held for the purpose, not being used. This appeal showed that just because you want to use it in the future doesn't mean that it qualifies now. Let's see. So this is some pictures of the property that you can see, the homes that are currently being asked to be exempt this year. Just running through those. And as far as we can see, they're empty and vacant and not being used. In their application, it doesn't show that the tours go through any of those houses. And so our questions really are, who donates to the foundation? Are those donations being used for the benefit of the community? How does it lessen the burden on the government? How often are the properties open to the public? And the application actually only shows that the property is being used once a year on July 24th, where it's open to the public. And then the application only shows, 2 days where school groups came through. All other times, we don't know if people paid to come in and see, but there's just little mentions of people that came through. I think maybe 6 times that people came through last year. So in reality, the amount of time that it's open, the use again is de minimis. You're not using any of those properties except the yard areas. And then it's only once a year to the public. There's not a website, there's no signage, there's no way to find the number to call. We found it like in one obscure article from several years ago where it had a number, but there's just not any way for us to tell that there's an actual overwhelming benefit or gift to the community.
So I'll address the use, the cabins, if they're considered vacant, they are all considered museum. They're all absolutely authentically presented as era cabins, and they are actively used. Part of our social media and our presence is for security. We don't have a very expensive security system. We don't have big gates. That's part of why we've asked a board member with Chris, who's a general contractor, all volunteer. We can reimburse supplies that he pays for and gas and some of his time just out of our budget. But we're hoping to maybe get more of a presence online. Dad does submit, at least my understanding, Dad, you should write down all the groups that come, because we do. But part of the reason we don't have a website is because of security. We don't put a lot on social media because of privacy, because we don't have people sign a waiver to put pictures online of people that come to the park. There's a lot of privacy issues. We respect a lot of the groups that come because we don't post social media. We don't have high-tech security systems. We're not a for-profit at all, so we're not required to have public bathrooms or ADA compliant, because we're just private people that want to open this up and share what we have with the public. So I listed all those groups. I mean, I could keep going. My family is always there, inviting anybody who wants to come, and we do have a number accessible. But again, we're very private and Spanish Fork City Police have even suggested that maybe we keep it a little quieter, because we are higher profile on Main Street, that we don't have a lot of signage. We don't promote ourselves, again, because it puts us a little bit at risk. And that's where we're trying to decide how much do we want to put a sign up? Do we want to become more high profile? And that's a balance that maybe we have to decide as the new generation that's taking this over. The properties that are on First South, the little white house is eventually going to be a doll museum. You can see there's a storage container. Nobody ever donates, and Dad can give you record monetarily. Most of what is donated to us are things from estates or personal property that people don't want. And we receive a lot of items that people do not want, and then they are able to get a tax ID number, and they are able to get a benefit for donating saddles and old wagons, and they're able to put things in a place where otherwise it's just cast off. So Mom's starting a doll museum, and we have Madame Alexander dolls, which all of you are too young to know what those are, but they're able to donate collections from their family heirlooms and their families, and they're able to put a monetary value and then decide a tax benefit for them, because we have a 501c3. And so we don't really get a lot of monetary, we're not a recipient of monetary donations, but we do get a lot of stuff that's donated to this project, because it's a place where they know we can curate a lot of collections. The other two homes Mom and dad have owned those for a long time, but they are in a serious process of clean out, decide what we can do. We want to have one of the Utah quilt museums in the middle house. But again, it's just a perpetual effort to try and open those properties. We have people go through and see what's in there, but they are not part of the kids tour. They don't love that stuff. The Pioneer Heritage Park is more the museums, the cabins. The display barn is epic. It's amazing what's in there. It has an old ice cream parlor. It is one of the greatest places. And KSL did a story on Mom and Dad and said, truly, this is the place, Pioneer Park, and this is the place, Heritage Park. Spanish Fork, Utah are two of the only places that you really, truly can go. And again, 24th of July is our biggest day, but that's because it's a Pioneer Park. And so that's where we get most of our visitors, but the rest of the year. And we can give you a list, and we could post again a lot more on social media of what we're doing. But again, there's a privacy for the visitors that come, and it's a private park. We're not.
We might have some more questions for you. Were all of the homes added on in years past, or has that been a change?
They were, the cabin site and the home next door to it were added in 2018.
Okay.
In 2019, one of the show barn, what they call the show barn, was added. In 2020, they added the corner house, what they said in 2020 was that it was going to be a doll museum and a place for little girls to meet with a group for a party, etc. That was 2020. It's just never come to fruition. The last two homes, these middle homes, were added in 2023 with the understanding that they were going to be museums as well.
Okay. Looks like Adam might have something. Jennifer?
We are sympathetic. I understand that idea that the more light that is cast on this this foundation could potentially open it up for more risk of property damage, and so our office is sympathetic to that. Again, similar to the last matter with Hewish, it really comes down to it being exclusively used. They've talked about those two houses for a doll museum, quilt museum, African art museum, and they're just not used very much. And similarly with the cabins, the question that we had was, whether it's de minimis. And now de minimis isn't defined in statute. It's tricky. There's the State Tax Commission hasn't come out and given us good clear lines, but with such minimal use and de minimis is in statute. It does say that a property may not receive an exemption under subsection 3A4 if the use for a purpose that is not religious, charitable, or educational is more than de minimis. And so, especially the two houses that were for the quilt and the quilt museum, the doll museum, that clearly seems de minimis to us.
That's the struggle I'm having, I guess, is I know the property.
Yeah.
I've lived the property. I'm Spanish Fork, right? And my whole life. And I know the Pioneer section, right? But I am struggling with the two homes.
And
that
it's
show.
taken much longer for us to open those up.
Yeah.
And to get those curated. And they're old homes with a lot of issues. And yeah, we realize
Gotcha.
that's, and I think our vision and these kids, the younger generation vision is to make it a lot more accessible. They like the idea to really open it up more and
That Pioneer
do more.
section and what you do with the Daughters of Pioneers and the quilts that are displayed there. And
we love it.
It is a wonderful
beautiful
thing
draw.
for the community.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add a point of process for you. Remember here that we aren't just dealing with a single property, we're dealing with 6 different individual parcels.
Are we able to piece those, Bert?
Yeah, you as the board, you have the ability to approve all of them, approve none of them, approve some of them, and you even have the option of approving some of them with a % taxable exemption, meaning that, for example, this is just an example, the parcels that include the pioneer cabins that are clearly being used and are frequently used, you could determine that, okay, those parcels, the parcels that have the cabins on them should be exempt, and any parcels that have some of the cabins on them could be exempt for the portion that includes the cabins, while finding other parcels might not yet qualify. Again, this is a similar conversation we were having just with BYU, and the fact that you've got two, maybe three vacant properties that are not really been put into use yet. They do have kind of a plan and something that was in the case law, I hope and dream, but it has not yet been put into use. So the board
Exactly
has
what I'm seeing. I'm seeing
several options.
The main house, the cabins in front of it, and the display barn. I don't have any questions there. No problems at all.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think the cabins absolutely provide value to the community, whether they're open or just the exterior. So I fully support that. I also support the display barn. I do not support the others.
Commissioner Gardner, do you have anything to add?
Nope, just I agree with that. I think that's a good way for us to do this, and then they can work towards tax exempt as they get those other things open to the public and working. So,
Good faith.
I'm Commissioner Beltran. If you want to make a motion, I'm fine to second that.
Just for clarity's sake, the David Jones house, it sounds as you do support, Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what is
And
the
if-
use of that house? It says vacant on here.
If you
Is
look
it
at
a-
the picture, you can
it's
see
an
that
old
that's
house?
the older house, very front and center on Main Street.
Okay, great.
I'm saying that right, aren't I?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I move to approve item 11 with 3 properties. On the parcel map, the David Jones home property, the cabins property, and the display barn, and to deny the 3 back vacant lots.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being here. Okay, approve or deny 2025 statement for continued property tax. Liam M. McKelvey, Living Foundation.
Is there a representative from the McKelvey Foundation? They're supposed to be online, remember? They may be online.
Sorry, I'm adding them now.
Hello, how are you doing?
The heating. We're so sorry about the air conditioning today, you know? It's toasty in here, isn't it?
Are you there?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I didn't want to have, let me turn off my computers, okay? There you go. So I just got the one on.
Okay, we've got we've got a lot of paperwork that we've all kind of been through. What can you tell us that we might not know that are having here?
Well, it would have been nice if while I was sitting here listening to the other people, I had the opportunity to turn on my other computer and go to the board meeting. And then I didn't realize that there was a draft about the organization, which is nice, by the way. Had I received this earlier, probably could have I could have just written the answers in, and then that ruined that. Anyway, there are concerns about the property, the organization. This is for a backdrop on our organization. And June 30th, 2021, my son committed suicide. My son was a F-35 and had come back from military assignment in Vermont. And I was managing the Salt Lake City airport floor and received a phone call from Vermont State Police. And normally I do not answer the phone when I'm on the floor, but I did, and they explained to me that my son was dead and self-inflicted. With that, I left work and drove home and talked to a couple of the members of my family and met at our house. But during the drive, I figured, what do I do to enhance my son, who just passed away, memory? I'm 76 years old. He was all of 25 years old. Be 4 years this June. So my wife and I, and a couple other members, chose to set up this Living Foundation. The Living Foundation isn't to be like a Tabitha way. I listened to them earlier. This is supposed to be somewhat private, and knowing we try to pinpoint where we put our money. Some donated to the people in Utah County. Some donated in the state of Utah, while others is outside of the state of Utah. And those are because they are already set up. If you noticed on my list, we're not donating to one of the people this year, because upon looking at their criteria as to how much money that they receive in and how much they expense out, it's not a good charity in my eyes. So with that said, we focus on PTSD. For those people that don't know about PTSD, it's not just people in service. There's a lot of people that have PTSD. But we try to associate ourselves with people in the service, and we do so by word of mouth with these other charities that we give to, which are military driven. We thought we could actually start what they call a small housing development for people with problems, only letting people in to that housing development, make it self-functioning, taking care of each other, and if they were veterans, making sure they could get to the VA. That said, that was an undertaking and a half. There are a lot of people out there who say, yes, we can, or yes, we will, but I guess that's the old story. Many are called and nobody shows up. So we were looking for grants for land and then prefab housing that would be self-sufficient. And there were a few people that said they would do it, but they had a lot of backstory to them as far as what they would require out of us. And sensationalizing what we were doing is not what we're looking for. You can say what you want. I noticed one of the comments on here, it talks about a website. There's a charity organization that has done background check on us, and we're on their website. We're on their website. Do you understand me? Not a website that we're on. It's two different items and two different thoughts. So, but if somebody said to me from the county, hey, maybe you should come up with a website, we probably could have and would have done it. My son-in-law is a, what do you call it? Computer tech genius, and he certainly could have made one in a couple days for us. And maybe we'll do so in the future.
And I think the question here is, if you don't have something like that, what other avenue do you have for say, veterans in need to contact the foundation?
Most of the veterans that come here, last year we had about 25 different veterans on and off throughout the course of the year. The house is set up so that you understand there's upstairs and there's a downstairs. The downstairs has a bedroom. I have an office down here, which they're welcome to use. They can use it. It has a big screen TV. We have high-speed internet throughout the house. They have a bedroom. They have a family room. They have a fireplace, a big screen TV there. In the process right now, we're taking the kitchen out that's down here, putting a new one. In December, we found out that the house has radon. We just finished having radon mitigation done on both portions of the house, and that's been put in. We're doing this not for today. We're doing this for tomorrow. We don't want any problems. Like I explained to you earlier, I'm 76. If I get 5 more trips around the sun, I'll be happy. Maybe I get one, who knows? But I will have done my part. So we do it word of mouth. If we like Tunnels to Tire, or if we talk to a person there, we tell them if anybody's coming this way, they're more than welcome to stay here. This is the address, etc., like that. My son, who's one of the officers, attends meetings for VA people, and he passes on to them. They're more than welcome to come up here. We're not looking for long-term persons. We do have one person right now living in the house that is terminal. We don't advertise that. We try not, it's nobody's business other than the person is passing away. That came by word of mouth. So, be it what it is, them we take care of. there's a comment on the, so the radon in the house has been taken care of. We're building a kitchen. This is coming from private funds, basically my wife's and mine funds. We don't dip into the foundation at all. There's a comment that the foundation pays for the house, and that's absolute wrong. The question was how much is the mortgage, and it's $22,000 a year. That mortgage is paid by McKelvey Holdings, which is my wife's corporation. She donates that money monthly. It's about $1,982. So that comment on your write-up is wrong, just so that we understand each other. The lot next door, somebody come by and took a picture. Yeah, you are correct about the lot next door. And if you look at the picture on your, let me go to my one computer here now that I got out of it. There's a picture there and it shows the downhill, the slope on the one side. They are correct about the slope on the one side. That is the lot, the extra lot. And understand when you say there's nothing on there and it doesn't have to be part of the property. According to you, it doesn't have to be part of the property. According to the city of Springville, it's part of the property. And if you look at the picture, the aerial map of the property, that lot is co-joined to this lot because when the house was built, my father-in-law, when he built this house, put the garage on that property. So it's co-joined to this property. It's not a separate entity. Although it's being taxed as such, it's not a separate entity. The city will not let us develop that property, and the only way we can develop that property is if we co-join the next property to that property. Do you understand what I'm saying?
We do understand.
So,
let me just stop you right there, and let me hear what some of the questions that come about. Maybe we can see what kind of consensus we're getting to.
Sure.
Okay, so again, all we can really go by is what's in the application. And in the application, let's see, I'll just skip a few of these things. You know, it only mentions in the application, which you guys have seen, that there's donations being made to different charities that they've decided are
The
important to
BYU
them.
scholarships and things highlighted, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So we really can only see that. And if it's not on the application, we can't consider it. And when we look at that application, we don't see that there is, that they're meeting the charitable purpose criteria. When they first applied, it was on the premise that they would be helping veterans with PTSD, and that they would be giving resources to them, providing them with services. But none of that is in their application, and we can't consider that because it's not in the application. And
what part of the application, let me ask, I don't mean to step on your feet. What part of the application, because I filled out the application both years, isn't it there?
This is Mandy North with the auditor's office. I communicated with you by email and asked for a specific accounting of what you had done in the year 2024. And we actually had a telephone conversation also. And you did provide, some explanation of these donations you gave. There was no mention of veterans actually having stayed in the home. Your application says that the home is living quarters for your board members. And so our confusion was what you originally reported, that this was going to be housing for veterans to assimilate after coming out of duty. We didn't see any of that reported as having been done in your application.
And in the application, it just says that the foundation concentrated on donating monthly dollar clothing, furniture, and food that was collected and then subsequently donated to specific local charities, and that you donate on a monthly basis to certain charities, which were listed on the donation spreadsheet, which we can see was provided on the screen.
So if you look at the donation sheets, maybe my understanding of what somebody asks of me and what your understanding of what you're talking about, two different things obviously it was, because I certainly could have provided a paragraph about people that stayed here and people that have gone on. You understand me? But if you look at right there at number one, it says United States Air Force PTSD research, $3,900. So I sent the same sheet last year, not the identical sheet. It was a sheet that showed what we donated. You asked last year, we had 48% in Utah County to get up around 60%. We raised it to 64% for local county situations. I thought we had met the threshold of what you asked of us, but concerning everything, etc., you know something? Whether you approve this as a charity organization or not, that's your prerogative. Something. My wife just made a comment to me. We're going to continue to do what we do with or without your approval. I know what we gave. I know we gave away $12 million. Do you see that on the list? Do you see my name on a basketball court? You don't see any of it. We're not interested in any of that. We're interested in helping people. Hopefully, there's no strings attached, and that's the truth. And if you ask how we did it, it's called crypto.
If I
And
may,
you know something?
our bigger conversation here, sir, is about use of the home, if you want to address that, because we were, from your application, understanding that it was living quarters for your board members, which are yourself and your children. So we were not seeing the use for the charitable purpose of the property.
Okay. So I just told you what we were doing to enhance the property for the future. Okay. I looked at some pictures of other things. How you view things and how I view things could be two different things. It could be all one and the same. We have done everything that was asked of us when we set things up. We're now trying to move this house into the future by doing what I said. Radon, which is not free. There's no charge to the thing. My wife and I only make Social Security. That's all we make as an income. There's no practical use. There's no practical use for a write-off. Zero. I have no income to offset. Neither does my wife. Hopefully you understand that. So this is strictly out of the kindness of our heart as we've grown older. That's all. And we use the house. If somebody comes and buy, they do, and if they don't, they don't. I get the fact we could advertise it. Yeah, we could. Then I'd be doing background searches. Then I'd be doing a lot of background searches, which are not free, to determine who I let in the house. So that's also, you have to understand, when you open your house up to different people, you bring in different people. And not everyone can we serve. Not every person with PTSD can I help. I can't help them because I might not be able to take care of their problems as they get here. All right? I don't want to farm somebody off to somebody else.
Okay, I think what we're again trying to get at is just the use of what you had applied for and what we're currently looking for.
I believe we fall under the criteria, but if we don't, what you vote on is not going to change what we do.
Okay, understood.
Mr. Chair, will you take a motion?
Yes, please.
I move to deny item number 12.
Okay, and I will second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that is denied. Thank you for your time. Item 13, approve or deny 2025 charity plan for community nursing services.
Is there somebody here from community nursing? We don't need to.
They're
have
online,
anybody.
sorry.
They do. They have to present
sorry.
their charity.
We got Nyla Bear here from Community Nursing
Hi.
Services.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We may have some questions for you. Is there anything you'd like us to know that's not in your packet? Can you give us like a quick synopsis?
No.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from staff?
We don't have questions. These next few are just required to attend to present their charity plan.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for being here. I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve item 13.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that is approved. Item 14, Mission Alpine Valley Care Center. Are they here? All right. Anything we should know? No? Okay, thanks for being here. Any questions on that one?
A motion to approve item 14.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item 15, Mountain Lands Community Health Center.
We got Eric Johnson from Mountain Lands.
Okay. Any?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for being here. Any questions or concerns there from staff? Okay. I'd entertain a motion there.
Okay, motion to approve item 15.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 16, approve or deny exemption for Catholic Health Initiatives Colorado. Thanks for being here.
We have a note on this one. This is actually initially a late application. You first have to decide whether to approve or deny their late application, and then the next item is the charity plan itself.
Oh, I see that. Yes, that's right.
And this is a continuation, not an ad.
It's a continuation, and we do have questions about their charitable giving as well
Great.
when we get to that.
Excellent. Remind us your name for the record.
Yes, good afternoon. Nicole Milo, Common Spirit Health.
Okay, what questions do you have, staff, for Nicole? And this is specifically to the late?
On the late,
Yeah, that's what.
Sure, but
no questions, just as she stated,
Okay.
we were trying to get the charity plan and
okay. Do you have any issues with the late one?
No.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion on 16 then.
I'll move to approve item 16.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, and then 17. Sounds like we had some questions from staff.
just charitable giving, because they're new. They newly took over this hospital last year, and they were just starting to implement their systems for doing charity care. So now that they've had the full year of 24, we just wanted them to say what actual charitable giving, charity care have they done?
Yes, happy to discuss that. So just a reminder for everyone to level set. We took ownership of the Stewart hospitals almost 2 years ago, but we did not convert financial systems for over a year. So when I was here last year, Stewart Health was still managing our financial systems as part of the purchase and acquisition of those facilities. We just recently secured those financial systems and converted the hospital over to Epic, which is the electronic health record. Once that whole process took place, that's what drove us taking all of the financial pieces under our control. So once that occurred, we now issue a 400% FPL charity plan that's automatically in place for all patients that's come through. So to answer staff's questions directly, the first piece I want to make sure that we're clear on is that when we did take over those financial systems from Stewart Health, we had $3.7 million we needed to essentially write off for care that was provided by our hospital in Lehigh over the last year because Stewart Health was not incentivized to collect those payments because we were the ones delivering the care, they were the ones delivering the financial systems. So obviously you can see there was no incentive for them to do that. So we did have to write off all of that care. And then additionally, we do have Medicaid shortfalls of $3.5 million that are part of our charity care over the last year as well.
Good.
Question for staff, do we do Intermountain, all these other hospitals receive exemption?
Intermountain Healthcare does. They will present their plan next month. So our question, last year you had said you were getting into doing grants and community things, but you had only given one in 2023. What have you done in 24 as far as community, like grants, things like that?
Yeah, sure. So for hospitals, a good portion of our community benefit dollars that are IRS qualifying is that charity and uncompensated care. That's what we do. That's how we know what we do best are those two things. In terms of specific grants, when we converted a secular hospital to a religious nonprofit, which we're in the process of doing right now, IRS gives us 2 years to convert those hospitals through a community health needs assessment process to get the hospitals fully converted. So by IRS guidelines, we have till June 30 to get that CHNA in place on our website and moving forward. That work has been done. We partnered with BYU, 128 other individuals and over 20 organizations to complete that charity plan. And an outcome of that charity plan is what drives our community benefit giving moving forward. And so through that collaborative engagement with the community partners inside of Utah County, we have identified 4 areas that we will be working collectively on. So some of them are social determinants of health, so food and housing, air quality, chronic diseases such as kidney disease, liver disease, diabetes, and behavioral health. So that is where we're just trying to catch up to IRS guidelines and get everything in place. So to answer your question directly, we did have a health equity grant that did come through for Utah County. Around $90,000 is what we gave. But we've just been working to convert financial systems, continuing to provide that uncompensated care, as well as get everything prepped so that when we are here next year with our community benefit plan and our CHNA, we can show those actionable items. It was just the steps that take place per IRS guidelines. I hope that's helpful.
Right, so just up to the board whether you'd consider the care itself as being sufficient charity.
I'll move to approve item 17.
Okay.
One second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks.
Item 18, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Hi.
Kelly Taylor with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day
Thanks
Saints.
for being here. Any questions here?
No.
No questions.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move to approve item 18.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, that passes. I hope you
you.
passed lots of levels of Candy Crush today. It just seems like a long time to sit and wait for such a quick item. Thank you.
Yes,
All
very
right,
much
Utah
so.
Food Bank. Any questions for our Utah Food Bank friends?
No questions.
Okay. Tell us your name since you've,
Hi, my name's Kent Liston.
Kent, thanks for being here. Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Yes, move to approve item 19.
Okay.
One second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That passes. Thanks, Kent.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you being
everyone.
here. Okay, Boys and Girls Club. How many levels did you pass?
Jenny McFarland. With
Jenny, don't tell me a fib. How many levels did you pass?
I didn't even
Got
play
caught
any
up on your
games.
March Madness bracket? All
Just
right.
caught up on emails.
Any questions for Jenny?
No. Staff?
No question.
Okay.
They move to approve item 20.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Prove and deny Habitat for Humanity. We got them online. I'm not seeing them here.
I don't see them online either, unless they're the phone call. There's one that's a phone call. I could give them a second to talk and see if this is Habitat for Humanity. I'm not sure.
No, we're fine.
Okay.
Good.
Well,
I believe they're supposed to appear
There
on
is
new
a
applications. Bert could answer that.
statutory obligation.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah, I think they do need to be in person.
let's just see how 21, maybe we circle back through the meeting
Okay.
over the next.
Yeah, let's circle back.
And you also have the option of continuing that to next month too as
Okay.
well.
Okay. All right. Rural housing development.
Okay.
Oh, we pulled the continuation, but this is a new one. Is that right?
That's correct.
Hi, Brad Bishop with Rural Housing Development.
Hi, Brad.
22.
Any questions from staff on this one?
So, just for your information, I'll just buzz through these pictures that were supplied to us. So you can see they have 3 separate parcels from the application. This is a picture that was taken more recently of all 3 parcels. They're kind of contiguous. I think that we've already kind of had a discussion. This is a well, I don't know if I can do that. They're vacant land, no curb and gutter. So I'll let Adam take over from here.
Yes, Adam Beck, Utah County Attorney's Office. Yeah, so the general rule with vacant land is that generally they need to have a building permit or started construction. Back in 2016, Utah County had an appeal with rural housing development because rural housing development, the nature of their business model is not to ever pull a building permit or start construction because they will deed the property over to homeowners so they can build their own house. Yep. And so on appeal, rural housing development was successful, and one of the things that the statute, one of the things that came out of that case law is at that time rural housing development. They were fully improved residential building lots with utilities, storm drain, sewer, curb, gutter, sidewalks, and streets. And so with this organization, that's what we would be looking for because they won't be building a house or a dwelling. So because of that, and it's farmland currently, we do recommend a denial.
Can I add to that then?
Brad, please.
Yeah, so when we came in 2023, we had a couple parcels in that same, and we understand that we need to have some type of improvement started or on the land. At that time, it was suggested that we can do an abatement. I've reminded staff because we did submit an application. I think there was some miscommunication on the application because it was exempted, and so we didn't get a tax bill for a couple of years. And so we submitted another application because we assumed, let's get this in here. Even if they deny it, we could still come back and do an application for an abatement. So I think that's what the direction we're heading. So did I say that right, Adam?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, what Brad said is accurate.
Okay, I move to deny item 22.
Okay, we have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
that is denied. Item 23 is Ivory Innovations. Are they here?
Good afternoon, Jim Bryan for Ivory Innovations.
Hi, Jim. Any questions from staff on this one?
No, this is low-income housing as well, and so our standard of, starting curb and gutter and such has been met, I believe.
Yes.
We saw pictures where they have commenced construction, so we don't have any questions on this one.
Yeah, I have some questions. I went to view the website and click, availability, and the rates listed are not, subsidized or affordable housing. So walk me through the process on how people are selected for these units.
Darren Haskell, I'm Director of Ivory Innovations. So we use area median income and the IRS safe harbor guidelines, which are 50% or 60% or 80% AMI. So those are the guidelines that we meet. We have certain thresholds that we have to.
And I saw those, but how do you fill these units? How do people how are they selected?
We hire a property manager. Property manager will have people come in that they have to meet the HUD area median income guidelines for based upon income. So they have to meet the income requirements. So that's the criteria that we use to demonstrate that.
So it's a public process and anyone can apply through these property managers?
Sure, anyone can apply through the property manager. They're just required to meet the income thresholds that qualify for the IRS guidelines.
Do you remember the property management company you use?
It's Evergreen Property Management.
Okay, thank you.
Do they advertise that this is available? Or how do people find out that it's an option to have some subsidized rent?
I know that the signage on the property all indicates
On
that
the
it's
property.
affordable housing.
Okay, because we didn't see it on their website itself, on the community's website.
Neither did I. I see
Yeah.
nowhere that's where my concern is. I don't know who's being chosen for these units. That's my concern. They just look like normal housing. The application is definitely market rate. So I have a concern with, is it really serving the general public if no one knows?
My understanding is that they have a waiting list and that word is getting out. So I tend to think it's meeting a need for affordable housing and having housing that's available at either 50, 60, or 80% AMI is very beneficial.
Phase 1's filling up, right? So.
Yeah, you're looking at the first phase is with the units that are constructed that are occupied and
yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I can just
Yeah.
interject real quick. So the parcel at issue right now is phase, I believe, if, correct me wrong, this is phase 2, right?
This is the
Correct.
second
It's
Yeah,
phase.
so this is the
vacant
second
land at
phase.
this point.
And right now, I see it's only a single parcel. I assume that you guys are in process of subdividing that.
That's correct.
Subdividing, okay. So this will obviously be there'll be a lot more parcels on this next year. Can I, if
98
the
additional
board doesn't
units.
mind, can I ask a question of how many of the original phase ones have been filled that we've got residents there? And do you know how many of those are in fact getting subsidized housing this time?
Yeah. So we submitted with the renewal application the rent rolls from the phase 1 project. And at the time, there were 8 units that were occupied, and 7 of those 8 were all at 50, 60, or 80.
Okay.
But some of those continuing, we're still doing the tax abatement on the units that are at market rate, correct?
I believe right now, the phase 1 units that are on the continuing statement, I believe they're all receiving an exemption. So
Regardless of whether they're market or in the AMI decrease.
regardless, yeah.
What's
Currently,
the logic behind that?
they put on their application, it was approved. So on the basis that the board approved it last year. Again, an exempt organization does need to prove every year that they meet the qualifications. So I believe we've already approved the continuing statement
Yeah,
for
we
this. Yeah, so.
I could share the logic is the market rate units subsidize those that are at 50 and 60%.
So then Ivory Innovations is becoming whole by the other market rate, correct? Why? So I'm struggling with where's the value to the community if we're using the market rate to subsidize the non-market rates. In my opinion, the Ivory Innovations ought to take the hit on the subsidized in order to provide actual clear charitable value. No.
The hit is we're donating the property, we're building it at a cost with no fee, we're marketing it with a property manager at below market rates. We have a financing partner that's financing it at below market interest rates as part of their charitable cause. And so you have a group of companies trying to come together to solve an affordable housing issue that's not getting solved in another way. And we're pulling together the resources the very best way that we can to provide affordable housing. So I think we're meeting a huge need in the community. Utah County, as well as its cities, have responsibilities to provide affordable housing, and we're part of that solution. So I think there's a huge benefit, especially to the person that's renting it and getting it at 60% AMI.
Commissioner Gardner, anything to add?
and I think on this one, like you said, there is a waiting list to do the affordable housing. I think anytime an affordable housing unit is creating home ownership rather than just perpetual renters, I think the entire community benefits. Anytime we have that, I think if we've got a situation where we've got subsidized market rates, if you've got a history of putting people below AMU, and anything we can do to reduce those costs to getting people into a home, I think it's a huge benefit to the entire community. These properties won't be in property tax exempt status in perpetuity. They'll just be there until these sell. And then when these sell, we've got homeowners that'll be paying their property taxes and gaining equity in their purchase. So I tend to lean towards a yes vote.
Well, and Commissioner Garner, these are rentals, not for sale.
No, I was thinking they were rental. Well, even then, if they're filled with low AMU, if we've got a history of the past ones being filled at low AMU, in the process, like I struggle with not supporting any project that, especially if they've got past history of that. We actually do give a lot of tax breaks to developers when they do. Like you talked about, hey, are they being made whole by the market rate ones? Well, no, they're not being made whole by the market rate ones, because if they had them all at market rate, they'd be making way more money. Right? So if you have 10 units at market rate and you make $100 per unit, well, if you put 6 of those at below market rate, yeah, you're not being made whole, because they're not charging the market rate ones above market to make up for the difference. So even in a rental, I mean, I would lean towards, I would rather they be the home ownership, but even then, if they're giving those exempts. Now, what my question on this one isn't necessarily, is this a benefit to the community? Because I absolutely think it is. My question is, would go back to the attorney's office on, is this in congruence with other properties, and are we being consistent across the board?
I do know that we have approved other companies that have a similar structure as this Ivory applicant.
And did you say that your questions were addressed as staff with building permits and curb and gutter, et cetera? Commissioner Gardner, I'm thinking you might be ready to make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that passes 2-1. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, item 24, approve or deny application for the Center for Women and Children in Crisis.
Hi.
Hello again.
I'm Ashley Taylor with the Center for Women and Children in Crisis.
Any? Hey.
Okay, so, sorry. So this is another one that is along the same lines. It's a vacant ground. This is the picture that we were sent. That is a storage pod. This shows how much acreage the storage pod is on. It's 4.3 acres. The pod is a small pod, 7 by 8. They say that in their application, they've put the pod on there because they have lack of space at their facility and need to store blankets and things there. But that use is de minimis, a storage pod on 4.3 acres, and the standard for vacant land is it really needs to be under construction with a irrevocable commitment to the charity. And right now they don't meet that. They don't have curb and gutter. There's nothing in the application that they say have permits, that they have a plan for use of the property, but it is just vacant land that is not being currently used. And I'll turn over to Adam if he has anything to say.
I don't think I have anything new to add. I guess I just wanted to ask the applicant, it's my understanding that you have other centers currently that are in use. Is that right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so they said yes. And so the intent is at some point you'll come and build a bigger building on this parcel?
Yes.
Okay. Those other parcels, are they currently exempt?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So again, it's that vacant land issue. It sounds like when the building permit and construction has started, this would likely be a great candidate for that exemption. We would just need to see that action taken in order for it to qualify.
So a prior applicant, we discussed permits and things like that. Have you got a timeline for something?
Yes, we're currently working on those. We have all of our architectural renderings completed for the for the project. It is for a larger emergency shelter for victims of domestic violence, as well as our Victim Services Center and transitional housing.
Okay.
Those plans are all in place, and we are applying for several HUD grants to be able to fund the project. With those HUD grants, we've had to do an environmental review that has now we are in month 10 of that process. So we've not gotten our permits because we need to have that environmental review completed before we're able to move forward with the project as we have it right now. We have taken all the necessary steps. They have published that review, so we are very close to that process being completed, and have taken the steps necessary for noise mitigation and those things to be able to be approved by HUD.
My mind goes to Greenbelt when I've got a piece of farm ground over here that is going to assist, and I know we're not in Greenbelt, but in my mind, I know this is going to be used to complement and enhance what
Well,
we're
and to
doing.
that question, I guess for Bert, this would be a better candidate for denial and then an abatement later in the year, correct? Or
Well, an abatement would fall under 1347, and that goes back to the Board of Commissioners, where you have broader powers to forgive tax. From an exemption standpoint, and I'll confess here, I don't remember who called me. They asked about, okay, what if we put storage on there? And from my Boy Scout days, we had parcels of ground that we put large storage containers on, and we were using. Of course, we had other uses for it, but I mean, if we saw something like that where there was large amounts of storage, I think I was confused as to what we were talking about. I think you could make a larger argument for a non-de minimis use, but the pot's pretty small and it's 4 acres, so it's cute. But
So my question on this one, guys. My question on this one is, I know that if there is a permit, then we consider that good. In this case, they've kind of done a permit, but that permit is the environmental review with HUD. And so I'm wondering if we accept the fact that they're in the middle of the process. See, the difference is other people don't need that environmental review for their HUD grant for the permit, but in this case, they've actually filed the paperwork. They can show us the paperwork, which is, with the permit, does the law say it has to be a permit pulled, or does it show that they have to be in this process, in which case, in the last case, curb and gutter showed us that they were in that process. In this case, does the HUD application show us they're in that process?
How about your assumption just be good enough, and how about you give me a motion?
I will make a motion to approve based off of that.
Very good.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Appreciate your time. Okay. Item 25, approve or deny Hale Center Foundation for the Arts and Education.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Welcome. You have sat through,
It was no show.
It was
So I'm Cody Swenson. I'm the Executive Director of the Hale Center Foundation, and this is Mark Osler. He's the CFO for our foundation. And just wonder if you've got any questions for us.
I think this
does.
staff put together a nice PowerPoint presentation, and so
Oh, wow.
there's some
Okay.
questions from them.
Okay.
So first of all, it's interesting to know that on ownership, they own 40% of the site, and Pleasant Grove owns 60%. Let's see. again, we're going to be going back to the charitable purpose criteria that I handed you and that you maybe reviewed prior. And also the, that might be a duplicate. Let's see. This is a little harder to do on this format. So, and then the questions that you asked to see if they actually qualify. And in going through their application, again, we weren't able to pull out anything that was charitable. They do put in there that, let's see, right now they're not able to offer like scholarships and things like that. So they say, unfortunately, the theater does not receive enough donations to pay for the costs of running the theater, so we must charge for patrons to see our shows, which tells us that they probably don't have the funds, and they can answer to this, to also offer scholarships and free for the public, even shows. So that would be a question that we would have.
We
I
just
can
stop
answer
there,
that.
Cody. We've
Yeah.
got some probably students, I think. for your art
Yes,
program.
so I can answer that. We do have the, our academy, and we do scholarship a number of students every semester. The other thing that we do is distribute tickets to the communities. We've got a group called the Advocacy Council, and they go out. There's representatives from each community in the valley, and they are going out and actually helping us with our reach, but at the same time giving tickets and allowing people to come to the shows.
How
Yeah,
many
for free.
scholarships
Yeah.
for, so kids or
Tuition for classes
Yeah.
or
do you have any rough numbers or?
Oh, how many
or
you say?
even Some good numbers.
Do you have a number on that? I believe it's probably about 5 or 10 per semester.
Okay, and it'll be different from your prior location to this new location,
Yeah,
right?
it's
'Cause you'll
growing.
have so much.
It's growing,
more
yeah,
space.
yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Does that
Mr.
make sense? What?
Yeah, and I had, I went back and forth on this one, but there was two things that, the donation of tickets was big when we even met for TRCC funding. That was a big thing for me. I didn't want taxpayers paying for people's entertainment, but the fact that we were allowing the opportunity to those who would never otherwise have the opportunity helped me. And the second thing big for this is doTERRA donated this, this property, which is a significant donation and contribution of charity. So those were two big reasons where I'm okay with this.
And Gina, I cut you off. Did you have other concerns? I'm sorry.
I did fail to mention that this is two applications. One is also a personal property account that they have applied for on their Orem location.
Okay.
Which, again, they would need to prove charitable contribution for that. I'm not sure what exactly they're using the building for, except storage and maybe to run the costume rental
Costume
out of.
rental? Is that
Not rentals. We're not doing that anymore. It's the costume shop for the creation of all the costumes that you see on stage.
Oh.
So that's
So-
what that building's being used for.
You're not going to be able to rent your Dumb and Dumber tuxedo. I've rented it from there. I was just thought you should know that. But I can't rent that anymore.
We may in a future year do that when
Okay.
we're able to figure things out. But for now, we're not doing that.
So that rental will be, we're stopping that, and then just because I know how much time you spend making costumes.
Right.
You've
Oh, it's
showed us
huge.
that before.
It's huge.
So what would be the justification for the personal property exemption there?
The
all of the
costume
property
making.
that we use to make the costumes,
For the Pleasant Grove?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, that's where the costume shop, it was in the basement, but since we moved, they kind of expanded. We had several containers outside that they just didn't have enough room. So now they've kind of taken over the whole property. They were really cramped in what they were doing before.
Do we have any idea what might happen in Salt Lake by chance? At the other, I know that.
So it's funny you say that because I literally just texted one of their council members to ask that question, Commissioner Gordon. And the reply that I got was that they are a nonprofit, but they're checking to see if it's got the property tax exemption. They weren't sure off the top of their head. They just do know that the Sandy one is considered a nonprofit, and that they do have that nonprofit status, but they were checking on the property tax exemption.
Okay.
We did check with Salt Lake, and because the building is not owned by Hale, they do not pay, it's exempt because it's owned by Sandy City.
Okay.
The entire building.
And do you know their business property by chance?
They haven't applied.
In Salt Lake. Oh,
Yeah,
I
and
see.
that's where I support the property tax. I can't get on board with the personal property and for Orem storage.
you have
I also think it's very minimal. I mean, the personal property tax bill is pennies.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Well, what is the threshold there? If it's below.
Actually, yes. I'm glad you bring that up, Mr. Chairman. If I could interject a couple of things. First off, to answer your question, there's a statutory exemption for any personal property account. And in fact, we'd like to encourage more of our tax exempt organizations to take advantage of this because it's a simpler process. But if the value of the personal property is $25,000 or below, and actually I think that's up a little bit, but you qualify for statutory exemption and don't have to go through the process. It's a one-page thing you file with the assessor's office every May. So that's
Is that in total though?
that's for per the account. So whatever personal property associated with that account, as long as that valuation is 25,000. And I think again, I think it's a little bit more than that. As long as below that threshold, you qualify for a statutory exemption.
We have a little bit above that at that location.
Okay, yeah. So, and
That's why we applied.
okay, and then the other thing that I did want to point out is one thing, and this was, and I should have made this point with the McKelvey Foundation. There's a difference. What we're not arguing here is whether the organization qualifies to be a charity or with IRS guidelines. You can become a tax exempt organization and receive donations and and people are able to qualify to receive an exemption on their taxes for, a tax deduction for those donations. We are simply talking about, a property tax exemption here, and that's a different thing. So you could have a foundation or a charitable organization that doesn't receive an exemption because they are a charitable organization, but they don't necessarily meet the standards that the state of Utah is looking for when granting exemption. So that's when talking about a private foundation and what they do for the community. Those are obviously the things that, as our staff is reviewing the application, we're looking for those kind of key indicators as to what benefit they're giving the local community to the tune at least equivalent to the property tax that they'd be charged. So,
Okay, Gina.
And I should also remind that in the application, the Pleasant Grove does also have a personal property account that they're applying for in that application. So keep that in mind. And maybe also keep in mind that the part that they own is what they call the education wing. It doesn't incorporate, as far as we could tell from the plans, the theaters. Those would be owned by Pleasant Grove.
And they're already exempt.
They are, yes.
And I'm hearing an appetite for the building, but this is in one motion. What would you, maybe I'm looking past Gina to the attorney to say what would be an appropriate modification to this motion to say if we were not comfortable with the personal property, but we are with the building.
Yeah, to approve the real property part, but not the personal property.
That would be acceptable then.
Yes, I'll make the motion. I can make a motion to approve the real property exemption, but not the personal property exemption for Orem.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I heard some comments real quick while the motion's on the board. Sure.
Is the motion to approve the personal property for Pleasant Grove as well?
Was that what you were going to
So
ask?
I would say yes.
So would I.
Okay.
All that personal property is the lighting and the sound and
In
everything
the
around
education
theater.
wing.
Well, and keep in mind, if I tip your building upside down, it's what falls out. And so a lot of that's attached. So many people will say, that's very expensive, right? Am I saying that a little correctly? Yeah. Not that we don't want to tip the new building upside down.
Yeah, so I think
It's new. We don't want to hurt it.
Commissioner Gardner did say she was fine with approving Pleasant Grove's personal property, excluding Orem's.
Yeah,
The storage.
excluding Orem.
which I agree with. So my second stands.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay,
Thank you.
thanks for your time. Appreciate you
very
being here.
much.
Okay,
We're almost there.
I know, I'm
So close.
regretting not taking a bathroom break earlier, but we're gonna make it. Item 26, farmland reserve.
Jeff Atwood, Farmland Reserve.
Okay. Okay, so this is an interesting one. In the past, they've had exemption because this property was owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They do run a trek over this property. This is kind of an overview of the property parcel. Let's see. They do have greenbelt exemption because this is now in Farmland Reserve's name, and their primary purpose is to hold farmland for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Let's see. Kind of want to not go over this, but you can see right here, there's a small portion of the land that they use for the trek. The improvements on the land would be a house that I believe in the application it's used for missionaries. And then the farm improvements have sort of been taken over for trek, like maybe for storage of hand carts and things like that. So what they're asking, let me see if I can find that slide really quick.
And can I make a clarification?
Oh, go ahead.
The farm, because on the assessor's improvement, what the site, it says agricultural improvements. There are no agricultural, every building improvement is used by the trek and the missionaries there.
Yeah. So in their application, they just say that there's a meeting building, missionary house, medical building, several storage buildings, and they're asking to have the tax abated because it's for religious purpose. What the board, I guess, would need to decide is if that's de minimis or not. They were having the exemption on the property, 50% under church ownership. I don't think I have any other questions except if you have any other things you want to clarify with that.
Yeah, and I think it had been done under the church ownership 50% years ago, and they had not even thought about it. The fact that the land transferred to Farmland Reserve, or obviously an affiliated organization, that we support the church. Everything that we make goes to the church. So we are not applying for anything that we are leasing out, obviously, to grow crops on agriculturally. We have that in Greenbelt. It's just for these religious, the church still uses all these truck facilities. They use them year round, and so we're just asking for that. The reason why it's 97.5% of the tax is because the land itself is in Greenbelt, so there's just a little bit left. We're not asking for actually any land exemption on this, just the exemption that covers the assessed value of those buildings that are used for the trek.
What's the estimated amount of youth that visit this site a year?
So 4,000 to 6,000 trekkers in the summer. In addition, there are 10 missionary couples, 2 that live in the house that are right there, 8 that live out in the valley or around. And then in the off season during the winter, church auxiliaries, relief societies, elders quorum, youth groups can schedule that. It's all free, no cost for that, for any of that use. But so it's used year round, even in the winter. But the prime season obviously is the summer.
I'll move to approve item 26.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 And these two are happy to be Mon Paws in the future.
No.
I've already paid my price.
Absolutely
so
not.
I've done mine.
I changed my vote.
All right, well, that's good to know. Thank you.
One and done. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure someday that might come back. Approve or deny. Item 27, property reserve.
Good afternoon, Alyssa Depew, Counsel for Property Reserve.
Elizabeth, what was your last name? I'm sorry.
It's Alyssa Depew.
Alyssa. excuse
Yes.
Okay, so this one is really complicated. This is a new purchase. This has never been under ownership of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They've owned it, I don't have the date down, but for more than a year. It is vacant and unimproved land. Let's see,
Prime piece of property, actually.
just trying to find the slides that are relevant right now, sorry. So there are questions about why they are applying on this land. So as we understand, they're not a disregarded entity of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so they're not direct and tax exempt because they're part of that organization.
Actually, if I could just jump in and maybe introduce the entity in a way that might be helpful, because it is tax exempt. And I can kind of explain the relation, maybe, but to maybe explain the relationship of Property Reserve with the church, if that's okay.
That's
Yeah,
good.
can you knock that out?
Yeah, so Property Reserve is a Utah nonprofit corporation. It's exempt under 501c3 for federal tax purposes, for religious, educational, and charitable purposes. More specifically, though, it is formed primarily to support the purposes of the church, carry out the functions of and all the purposes of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's an integrated auxiliary, an integral part, and a supporting organization, which for state tax purposes, not super useful, but for context here, that means that with the IRS, there's an extra layer of requirements that Property Reserve is required to use all of its assets to further the purposes of the church. Very similar to Farmland Reserve, which was just up here. So in terms of it's controlled by the church appoints the board of Property Reserve. All of its assets are irrevocably dedicated to further the church's purposes. So in terms of its tax exemption, it is tax exempt under the group exemption that the church has. And again, all of its assets and revenue and income is all limited to just being used to further the purposes of the church. So in terms of its relationship with the church, that's what it is.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a good clarification. So what it comes down to is use.
Yeah.
It is vacant land. So this is the confusing part. We don't really know what they've sent us. So they sent us two pictures that were taken. The top picture here is looking out towards, it looks like Redwood Road?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the actual land, the one that is outlined in red here. So you've got this, oh, now I'm mixing things up. So you've got land that's farmed, but the land that we're talking about is in red. Same with the second picture. Outlined as red is where the land is. This land that's shown is land that's farmed, clean, plowed, everything. This is the land from the road, not plowed, maybe taken weeds down, a lot of debris. Again, we're looking at a different angle. It's painted for utilities, it looks like. This is the overview. You can see off into the corner, outlined in red. This is the land we're talking about. Around it, all of this land is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it is farmed by welfare, and it does receive a religious exemption because it is currently being used and farmed, and it is developed. It has the infrastructure for irrigation. They've put tons of money and tons of time, man hours, tractor hours, whatever you want to put in there, wheat crop, whatever is going in there, tons of time and energy. It's irrevocably committed to the purpose of the church, which is the owner of that property. Let's see. We can also look back retrospectively, and we do have pictures of the last 2 years where it has not been in production. Pictometry shows the road that was in there for use at some point, but this ground has been not used even prior to ownership, and now all that's been done in it so far is just cleared for weeds. In their application, at one point, they did mention that they want to dry farm it, but right now, what we have to concentrate is use as it is, which it is not being used, it is not prepared for planting, and it is not, even if you wanted to say it was going to be used for religious purpose, which the application is for religious purpose, it is not currently showing, and it is not irrevocably dedicated to that purpose. Maybe if it was, as they put in their thing, they want to dry farm it, they want to put wheat in it, and it is not at that point yet.
Yeah, if I could just respond to the use concerns. This property was acquired at the very end of 2023. During 2024, property tax exemption was not requested. Sometime in 2024, and then certainly by January 1 of 2025, that's when the beginning use and preparation of the ground started to take place. One of the pictures we did provide, there were 3 pictures we provided. The first one is the state of the property when we first acquired it at the end of 2023. Tons of weeds, had not been leveled, no clearing out at all. And so the current preparation of the ground so that it can prepare to plant the dry winter wheat, which is always a fall crop, that's how Church Welfare is currently using it. And just to point out in terms of its use, Church Welfare has already taken this property under their larger scope of use on those contiguous parcels. They're planning to plant that wheat in the fall, and they've begun the weed maintenance and wanting the moisture levels of the ground to get to the point where they need to be, which they expect it to be that way by the fall, so they can plant that crop. Again, the Church Welfare Department is utilizing, they've taken it over, they've put it in their operations, they can get equipment to it, they can get water to it. This property was held by an older couple in a trust for a very long time and was not used for much, and now it has to be prepared. And they've started that process, they're doing that process, and so it's committed to being cleared and prepared for the planting, and that's the use. It's been dedicated, it's been committed. It clearly shows the intent and manifestation to use the property for those farming purposes.
So Adam Beck, County Attorney's Office. Yeah, and I want to just emphasize one thing that Gina was just talking about was that irrevocable use. Right now we see that some action has been taken, but there's a big difference between some of the other farmland around it and this parcel right here. If we felt like they had put seed or they were going to put seed, that's one thing they've said that that's what they anticipate doing. But right now they've cut the weeds down. And that's also the action you take if you're going to develop too. And so we would like to see that irrevocable commitment. And because we have not seen that, our recommendation is a denial.
Alyssa, 2 questions.
My understanding is that the property has also been tilled, and I've not been to the property personally, but my understanding is that the property has been tilled. So not just weed maintenance and removal and leveling, but also tilling of the ground, which is a crucial part to prepare it for the planting. You can't get those moisture levels up. You can't do that unless you've tilled. That's clearly something that they've already done, and I believe we have an affidavit from them confirming that has taken place.
When were these pictures taken?
Last week.
Well, in point of clarification.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
Yeah, this is Paul Devenbarger.
So point of clarification, the photos that we provided of my photos were also taken within the last 30 days. And using satellite, no, we were actually on the southwest. If you can move up to the other photo, I was on the southwest corner of our property looking north. So all that beautiful tilled dirt, that is the subject property, not where the red line is. So I would challenge that with any surveyor you want. 2, I would also submit that subsequent to my photos, you'll see the storm is rolling in, and we had substantial snowfall shortly after that, which is what batted down and weighed down the work that the farmer had done, which would be demonstrated in the photos that they shared, which shows exactly that. And as far as the setback of the, approximately, I don't know, what's that, 15 feet? Man, that entire corridor along Redwood Road looks like that, where people are throwing their trash out. So that to me is irrelevant as far as depicting whether or not it's being actively used.
So the plan is to plant this
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
this
Thank you
year.
for clarifying
All of
that,
it will
'cause I
be
know you'd-
planted.
Commissioners?
Yeah.
No, I had to polish my shoes after.
Thank you. No, I appreciate him clarifying those pictures because those pictures were sent to me as representation of the majority of the property that has been prepared and raked and tilled. And so I appreciate Paul coming to share that.
Can I explain where he's standing on a road that goes between their little piece and the big farmed piece here? And then, so he's standing on the Church of Jesus Christ property on like a farm road. And then the next one he provided, he's standing in the furrows of the Church of Jesus Christ farmland, looking toward that property on Redwood Road. So this is exactly what it looked like when I went out there. It's just his photos are of the church's property and then versus his.
And you can tell that this is, if we look at the overview with the exact parcel that he has applied for, this pie shape in the corner is what he has applied for, not this ground over here. And it's also outlined by poles, by power poles. So there's not really any way to misinterpret that. This is the ground that they're applying on, and this is the ground and what it looks like to this day.
Okay, we'll go to you, and then we're gonna go here, and then we'll get to the
So-
nitty gritty.
So from where I was standing, there's also a partially covered canal, but the parts that are open make it so that I can't stand on the side that's the LDS church. I'm actually standing on this PRI piece as I took the photos. Now you can see both properties in the photo because I'm right down the property line. But after 20 years of inspecting properties, I know how to inspect a property. So I'm telling you, and you guys are welcome to come out there and walk it with us anytime. Love to have you. But you can even in these photos, you can still see the till marks. I mean, those weren't there in the
Those
2023
aren't
aerial.
till marks.
Well,
Okay, right here. What do we got?
Thank you, Commissioner. Tim Taylor from the Utah County Attorney's Office. So Adam Beck talked earlier about the term used exclusively for, and basically why that's important. That's in the Utah Constitution. Okay, so that's Article 13. And so the seminal case that we look at, that the Utah Supreme Court has tried to help us define and give us guidance with regards to vacant land, is the Episcopal Church versus the Tax Commission. And there's some really wonderful language in there. In my opinion, they don't meet that, the qualification, because here's what it says. Just some of the language. It says that future development of a lot for an exempt purpose is not within the constitutional purview of the limited class of property use is exempt from taxation. Basically, I think that their application is premature. I think if they come back later on and they say, we got wheat in the ground. But what they've done right now is, in my opinion, and I drive by this property every day, is that they basically have taken away the weeds with regards to this. And I think that, next year, when they go ahead and put wheat in there, then they've gone ahead and they've complied with this. But the courts have given us direction with regards to this. And they also said with regards to a building, if you're going to construct a building, once you pull a permit or you start to construct a building, then you should be eligible for that tax exempt status. Pulling weeds on a building, on a vacant piece of ground, in my opinion, does not qualify.
So I just want to point out that that case is specific about construction. It's building something. This property is not going to be used to build something or construct something. It is used to plant crops. So if we allow someone to just merely get a permit before a single nail has been pounded to say this is exempt because we got a permit, I can't imagine that we wouldn't say, oh yeah, we've prepared ground, we've pulled weeds, we have tilled, we have done preparation work to prepare for planting. I can't imagine that that's not analogous to at least obtaining a permit, if not steps further than that. In terms
Well,
of
if you do want to make a
comparing construction
comparison on
to the
this,
cropland, it's a
if you
different.
if you do want to make a comparison on this, then we would compare it to other farmland, and we don't give a farm exemption when someone tills land. We give it to them when they actually produce. So if you want to make that comparison, you haven't applied for a farming exemption, but under a farming exemption, you would not apply. And under a religious exemption, you don't apply. But under a building exemption for affordable housing, you might apply. So you have to look at the section of code. And if you want to make a comparison, then let's compare it to farmland, and you don't apply under farmland.
Correct, but we're also not farmers looking to farm property for profit. This is going to be used for religious purposes to feed the poor and the needy. That's the religious use.
And when it is used to feed the poor and the needy, then you do apply. But until it's used for that, you don't apply. Because in the meantime, my property tax is higher while you're planning on feeding the poor and needy. So you have to put it into perspective.
My understanding, though, is that when other charitable use property that's used for farming in the off season, when the crop is not planted and actually growing, the property still qualifies for exemption. And there are year-round things that you do. We are currently in that same process of preparing the ground and getting it ready and taking those steps.
So you did. You produced last year. So last year you produced a product on this. You grew and have production from last year on this property.
No, last year we did not claim exemption on this property. They did not claim exemption on the property.
And what is the adjoining property?
Yeah, and we don't give exemptions for farms until after they have produced.
Do you know what the adjoining property has?
The parcel is contiguous. It's dry wheat, regular wheat, corn, I believe. They do various crop rotations, and again, church welfare is incorporating this parcel into those rotations that they do. The use is it's identical to the parcels that are going to be used next door, and they're doing everything they need to prepare it so that they can plant that crop in the fall.
The last question I have is there an appetite to combine the parcels?
That was my question. Why not?
Potentially. There's a lot of land that's owned in various entities for the church, also held by the church itself, various different responsibilities and different stewardships over different pieces of property. Whether or not they decide to combine it, that's kind of above, that's a kind of an operational decision that I don't have the answer to there.
That would help me as well.
But in terms of whether or not if this piece was owned by the church outright versus whether it's owned by one of its supporting organizations, I'm not sure that should change. Whether or not the property line is collapsed, I'm not sure that should change the result. And I think if it did change the result, then I think that's saying that the use is enough to qualify for exemption.
Yeah.
I think the key here is to remember that it is not yet irrevocably committed to the charitable contribution.
I think that,
And that's standard. I'm a little confused where that language comes from.
Until
in terms
it's
of-
irrevocably committed, until there's crops on it, until they've showed that the infrastructure is in place for that, it is not irrevocably committed.
In
Commissioner
terms of
Gardner, did I
irrevocably
hear you
committed, I
say a
don't.
motion?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm ready to make a motion to deny the tax exempt status on this property at this time.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. All right, let's go back to item 21. Anyone from Habitat for Humanity here? Should we table it? We could continue it to April,
Motion to continue item 21
to the next
I'll
BOE
second.
meeting.
to next BOE.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue to the next BOE meeting, item 21. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And I'll take one final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Do you need me to sign anything?
Goodbye.